Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. Rolling along here, it's the conference finals in the NBA. The first game up in the Eastern Conference on Tuesday night. Got those Celtics and the Pacers. Wednesday, we'll be taking a look at those Timberwolves and the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals. My brain still hasn't caught up to the Nuggets losing in Game 7. But we will be taking a look, like I said, best bets in this one for the Pacers and Celtics. Also got player props up in a separate episode. Also look at some futures series prices and some futures player prop series stuff as well. So some really good content coming out right now for all of these conference finals games. Make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along. Also head to thelines.com. Everything up on the site right now for the NBA. Super helpful for you guys as you're making some futures plays and these game-by-game bets as well. Nate, let's go ahead and get right into your first pick here for best bet, I should say, from this Pacers and Celtics game 1.
Going with the Celtics -1.5 for the fourth quarter. And there's some wild variations in how this game can play out, but I think this does cover a few of them. We have seen Boston kind of struggle to score down the stretch when they've completely blown teams out. But I think if the Pacers don't have success early here, coming off the emotional 7-game series, on short rest, I don't see them having a very big push down the stretch in the fourth quarter, and maybe Boston closes a little stronger. But look, if it's a competitive game, I expect this to be high scoring, free flowing for 2, maybe 3 quarters. And then it just really tightens up as playoff time. We're looking at an under potentially. It's 53.5 is the total for the fourth, but I just think Boston is going to do a much better job of scoring and getting stops down the stretch as the far more experienced playoff team. And one that actually has the number 1 opponent free throw rate in these playoffs. And Indy is allowing the third highest free throw rate and not getting the line much down the stretch. And they're actually shooting 59% when they have gotten to the line in the fourth quarter on the road in these playoffs. They were held to 25 or fewer, which is their team total, in 2 of their 3 at Milwaukee. And this is obviously a far more full-strength Celtics team, a far more well-rested team. They're only shooting So their last relevant matchup on January 30th between these teams, after Boston kind of responded to losing in the in-season tournament to these guys, but we had an actual matchup where Pascal Siakam was in there. It was very free-flowing, just like this. Pacers had 103 entering the fourth quarter, then scored 21, did not get to the free throw line at all, while losing eventually by 5. And so that's kind of the type of thing we'd look at with the Pacers, is just not a great crunch time offense. If it is a half court game, that's where they struggle. And the Celtics, the way they've played in these fourth quarters in the playoffs, 96 pace in the first half, 83.8 pace in the fourth quarter. It is very much a half court game. I know they've struggled to execute at times, which you laughed at, is this half court, these mid-range step backs that the Jays keep taking, which might be a concern, but I think against this Indy defense, you're going to get anything you want. Cleveland and Miami are both really good defenses, even when they're shorthanded, good systems, good schemes. Indy is a horrendous defense. And let's not forget that they just played the shell of the New York Knicks. And now these Celtics are getting once again a favorable spot to get better as the game progresses, while Indy should maybe get a little tired on the short rest.
Yeah, for sure. I think they're going to come out and get punched in the mouth. I think it's just going to be a shock at how good this Boston offense is after playing, the shell of both those first 2 teams, like you said, for Milwaukee and New York, and just different as well. Milwaukee is going to be a lot more focus on, especially without Giannis. It was all, what's Dame doing, and even more so to magnify that even more against the Brunson Knicks. We got to figure out how to stop Brunson. He's the sun. Everything revolves around him. Well, Tatum's really good. He's just as good as all those guys I just mentioned, probably. But at the same time, that's not how this offense works. It works where, okay, if you want to try to cover Tatum and Brown one-on-one, good luck. They're gonna bully almost everybody. And if you don't, then they're just as capable of passing over defenses as anybody, 6'10" Tatum and 6'7" or whatever Jaylen Brown. So that's going to be a big shock to them. I think the ball movement, the open threes, they're going to find guys getting against them, which is not something they're used to as a really good 3-point defense. I think that's going to get trumped. So yeah, I'm with all of that, and I'll just transition right into Boston over 116.5 team total. If you can find a Boston in the first half team total as well, I actually don't hate that. I can see, I think we're both looking at this game similarly, which is like they're both going to come out strong on offense in the first half. Boston will probably get a double-digit lead at some point by the third quarter, and then maybe there's a little bit less, a little bit less sort of like frenetic pace going on in the fourth quarter, which only is a big reason why you like the Celtics to cover in that first quarter, in that fourth quarter, with such a small spread that we get before the game starts. Obviously, -1.5, and I think that's a similar thing here. But I still think that the Celtics will be basically looking at like 60 points in the first half. Maybe they slow down a bit in the second half, but this Indy defense, just like what you were saying, it's a big part of this. You look at them in the playoffs, 124 defensive rating on the road right now, and really playing a little bit faster as well on the road, which is interesting to me. At about a 93.5 pace versus 92.5 at home right now in the playoffs. And by the way, 92.5 versus 93.5, so much slower for them. But this Boston offense doesn't need to go fast to be efficient, as we know. They do need threes to go in, but there's 5 of them on the court that can make it. You look at Boston in rest situations here, but they played Saturday at this point to close out those Cavs. It was either Friday or Saturday. They're looking at like 3 to 4 days rest. If you look at them on 2 to 3 days rest in this in the regular season, they won by an average of 15.4 points per game in those situations, and are looking at about 118.5 points per game as well. And that's actually including on the road. At home, it's a couple points better when they play on that amount of rest. So everything for Boston is kind of like tailor made for this moment of like, okay, we're super rested. We're gonna be able to be a little bit extra compared to what this Indy defense has figured out in their first 2 playoff series. I just have I have no confidence that anytime they were able to stop a team, which by the way only happened at home, because they didn't even stop these Knicks and these Bucks or whatever form of them you want to consider when they were on the road so far in these playoffs. But even in those situations, like nothing is going to come close to what you're about to see from this Celtics team. I expect the first quarter to be pretty high scoring as well. And even though I do expect it to slow down a little bit, the sense of urgency might not be there quite as much for Boston once they pick up a lead getting into the fourth quarter. They should still, I'm projecting that if you can find a Boston to score 100 points in the first 3 quarters, which has been a pretty popular bet on FanDuel, I don't hate that as well, because it still kind of plays into the theory that things slow down a little bit in the fourth quarter specifically. But also just like I'm getting a little bit more and more scared of fading Tatum than I might have originally been. His stuff is so high because this Indy defense is just so terrible against primary ball scorers, ball handlers. They just don't attack the ball specifically well. They'd rather sort of just play that like we'll cover everybody defense and not double team guys, as we've talked about multiple times. That ain't gonna be something that they can really withstand. Problem is once you get the ball out of Tatum's hands as the primary scorer, they've got like 3 other dudes on the floor that are primary ball handler scorers. So whatever you want to consider Drew Holiday, we all forget that like he had 50 in a playoff game last year. It's still something he's capable of. So I think that the water is just going to keep falling out of different holes of the bucket for that defense for Indy until they find themselves, giving up at least 117 in this one.
Yeah, that's fair. The Celtics have pretty much capitalized on these rest advantage and injury advantage situations in game 1 and come out on fire, and clearly going to have an emphasis to try to do that in game 2 as well. So good luck not blowing that one. But I mean, I agree that they'll come out and score about 60 in the first half, and I think the Pacers will also come out pretty strong. On short rest, you see teams often like the bucket kind of looks big and they score more right off the bat, and then maybe their legs lose some legs there at some point. But that's what I'm saying, over 113 in the first half, which is a high total, of course, but these are the Indiana Pacers. And I guess like our game 7 looks on Sunday where, I was talking about like an over in the first half for the Wolves Nuggets. And I'm like, why didn't I think about that for the Pacers, who just will buck every game 7 trend? So yeah, got that one wrong. But I mean, this is the Pacers. Like this is the new NBA where they're just running up and down and trying to outscore you and not giving a care that it's a quote playoff environment where they have to like play in the half court. I mean, like you said, they're still playing at a 92 pace, which is much slower than they were in the regular season. But their games are still averaging well over this in the first half with your Knicks, who were the slowest paced team in the NBA, I think, all season. Celtics not not too fast either, but they have been playing faster in the first half in these playoffs. Like I said, 96 pace versus it slows down to like 86 or lower in the second half. They're averaging 60 in general, more at home in the first half. 125 offensive rating. Indy has a 125 defensive rating in the first half. Boston's defense has not come to play as much when they're in the Garden, allowing nearly 51 at home versus 45 on the road. And this is a different type of offense, different challenge, and I think a little bit of a different situation than the Cavs, who were coming off that Sunday Game 7 when they came and they only got 95, and they were on pace to go over 100 for sure. Like, they had a solid first quarter, good first half where they got over their team total there, and then did kind of run out of gas. But I mean, the Pacers, because they go 9 deep, because they're so young, I don't think that the short rest is going to be as much of an issue for them. And I mentioned that that relevant game on January 30th. The halftime score for that one was 71-66. And then, it slowed down a lot in the fourth quarter. But I'd even consider Indy to be within 6 points of the halftime spread along with the over. And then you're up to like plus 270 because I think Halliburton going to carry a little bit of this momentum over and then just keep things humming for a Pacers offense that loves to play fast. And then he hands the baton off to your guy, TJ.
Yeah, I'll just get right into it because I agree entirely with the half stuff. Like I said, I like the Celtics especially to come out strong in the first half, but I do think Indy kind of just keeps that momentum going for a couple of days of like, oh, we're so good right now. Aaron Nesmith shot 100% from the field and whatever else happened in recent games. So we'll carry that over. There's going to be some momentum, especially for the stars for this team, especially like I expect Pascal and Tyrese Halliburton and just whatever other one guy, maybe it's Obi. To think TJ is good to come out and really set the tone as well. So I'll get into TJ McConnell because we both like him. There's a couple ways to play this. I like the 9.5 points alone. If you wanted to take that, my logic has been every time that this prop gets under 10 points for TJ McConnell, it's at 9.5. I'm taking the over. He shoots 10 times a game. He makes 5 of them. It's just that simple. And he doesn't take threes. And have you seen a bucket more guaranteed than TJ McConnell fading to his left in the lane from 5-6 feet away? I could not imagine a shot I'd rather somebody on my team taking than that one. It's so funny too, because on the Zach Lowe podcast, he was talking about how TJ McConnell hoists his whole body into it. Like he's shooting a full court 3-pointer or something like that. When he's shooting from 5 feet away, it's like he puts every little muscle of his body into it, but it's the same exact form every time. It's a freaking thing of beauty. And it's something I think you can rely upon, maybe a little bit less when KP gets back. But I think by that point, I probably have this at 10.5 again, and then I'm out because he takes 10 shots, he makes 5 of them, they're all worth 2 points. That's just math, baby. So I keep liking that. He took 10.1 field goals in all of the playoffs, but against the Knicks, he went up a little bit. And you pointed this out too, the road stuff for TJ McConnell is awesome because that just furthers the narrative that he's an adult, if not the adult, in the room for the Pacers. Like I classify him as the guy that they're like, it's not like they're like, hey, come out and settle us down. They're like, hey, come out and get us easy twos, whether it's you or these assists that he keeps piling up. And the assists have been there. And we've seen a willingness for Carlisle to play him alongside Halliburton for like pretty decent stretches of time when he gets in the game. It's not like point guard versus point guard at this point. So I think he's still good to get the minutes up about 22. We could see him at 25, right? In the 4 that he played at MSG, he was up at 22 minutes, played 1 with 25 minutes in there as well. He averaged 12 in those games on the road versus the Knicks and 7 assists, 6.8 dimes on the road as well. He had some really big dime games. Double-double for TJ. One of these games is I feel him getting that double-double as well, which you can still get for, I believe, 4-1, 5-1 on your money because his assist, well, actually, a little bit, about 5-6 to 1 on your money, depending on where you shop that. I think that's in play at some point in this series. I'm not going to necessarily try to predict it or bet it every time. It's not enough juice to just keep hitting until it hits and then it's worth it. Nothing like that. But like there will be a game where he gets close to those 10 dimes. I'm very confident. The usage will stay what it is. We know what we're getting from the Pacers. We got to stop looking at Pacers backups though and going like, well, I can't rely on them because I don't know. No, we know that they're going to play 20 minutes. We know Obi's going to get it. We know TJ is going to get it. Rick Carlisle is not willing to sacrifice that stuff, and he feels just as confident with rested bench players coming in against other teams' starters, which is what we've seen from TJ consistently. And the assists are a good cover because of the fact that he's been playing so much with Tyrese Halliburton, where Tyrese actually does give up the ball a bit more at the top of the key to go out on the wing or come back and get it in like a handoff situation or just a short pass. with screens coming for him. So that's where McConnell has gotten a good amount of those dimes, is actually when Tyrese is on the floor. The spacing is better because you have to watch out for Halliburton's three more so than any of the other dudes that are playing with TJ McConnell. It's also how we've seen Obi get so many open threes, is they're like, we're not going to account for that. And he's been wet hot, a couple of assists per game from TJ on those, to be honest, which is wild. And just the stuff versus Boston in general, like you look at the numbers in the last three versus this team, as long as he's getting 20 plus minutes, he's at 13 points a game, 4 dimes right there. So he should be at 15 to 17 points and assists in this one. Might even get a couple more points, I believe. But the assists are going to be live for like 4 to 5 a game. I don't think we'll see that go down too much. Be a little bit careful thinking that like you can just fade his assists because he's going to be focused on shooting. That was kind of the narrative prior to this playoffs. And then he's come in and been so important as a facilitator that I just think that continues. We get the 15 PA from him in game one.
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics, I feel like, are going to really be focused on game planning against Halliburton, trying to cut the head off the snake, right? And that means a lot of energy for Derek White and maybe some for Drew on him. And then it's just like TJ is gonna get the opportunity to work against some backups or maybe work against those guys, but their guard will be a little bit down. I don't know if it'll be quite as easy for him as it was against these Knicks who were playing 45 minutes a game. But yeah, he's had success in normal situations against Boston. He had success down the stretch against Milwaukee. I mean, yeah, he's just a highly productive, permanent guy, and one of the few guys we can actually trust on the road in this spot to just keep going 100%. Regardless of how the game starts.
Yep, little parlay if you want it to. 10 plus points, 4 plus assists. You can get that about plus 117 for him on FanDuel. Actually, it's a little bit better on DraftKings now. I believe it's plus 122 if you wanted to get that there. So make sure you shop that around. Those things are going to fluctuate, obviously, for the parlays, but it's another way to play it because I do love the 10 points so much that if you wanted to add the 4 dimes alongside it, it's a pretty good look. But that is all the time, though, that we have for you in this one. Also got play of props up alongside these best bets for game 1 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Also got series futures and all the like that I mentioned. So make sure to subscribe to the page so you're not missing out any of these great episodes that we're bringing you moving forward throughout the postseason. And until we see you next, happy betting.